You are now listening to Out of the Blank.
Welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with Savannah Blake.
Hi.
Savannah, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself and what do you do professionally?
Okay, so I actually have two professions that are seemingly completely different, but the longer I do them, the more they intertwine, and I realize that they all go together.
Can I guess what they are real quick?
Sure, go for it.
All right, you said two different jobs. So I'm going to guess taxi driver and accountant.
Close.
Okay.
So online, I'm a confidence coach. I help women mainly build their confidence all over the world. And then in my community, I'm a birth doula. So I help mothers through pregnancy, labor, birth, delivery, and postpartum.
Oh, whoa. Okay. They seem like really two different jobs, but actually I can tell the similarity between it because with postpartum depression is pretty common. You're seeing nowadays with normal depression, they're very, very similar. I don't want to say it's the exact same thing, obviously, but with depression, it is a rising incline in our society today. You're seeing a very, I guess, I guess we would say upward rise towards the progression and how kids are developing it at younger and younger ages.
Mm-hmm.
Mental health is definitely a serious subject that I can go and give my own personal experience on too. How did you decide to become, I guess, a confidence coach? Is it just because you had to go through an experience? Because it always seems like when someone's interested in mental health or really completely aware of it is because they're going through it themselves or they have experienced it at a young age.
Yeah, definitely. So I didn't talk for about 23 years of my life, the first portion, and fell into the coaching world by accident. I had no idea the personal development world even existed. I was in a multi-level marketing company and researching how to better coach my team, and stumbled into this world and was just kind of taken away from there, and I knew instantly that it resonated with who I am, and I'm a natural teacher. I was always playing teacher growing up and whatnot, and teaching the other kids around me. And in all the jobs I ever had throughout my life, I always landed in the trainer position. So it was kind of a natural flow into coaching. It took me a really long time to figure out what I was coaching people, and then it's so funny because the more you figure out about life, it always comes full circle. So when you have a realization of something, you often find that you knew all along. You just kind of had to get there. And so, yeah, confidence coaching is what I fell into because per anxiety and my own lack of confidence, I didn't talk for so long. And I thought that was strange. I thought I was the odd man out. But the more I learned and the older I got and the more people I came into contact with, the more I realized that it's actually a super common problem.
Yeah. I think it happens to do with a lot with suppression. Like I was a very extrovert kid. I was very, talkative, very class clownish through school. It's probably why, they didn't like me really being in there. I always wanted to be the laugh, I guess kind of the attention in the room. As I got older and fell into high school, I started becoming very, very distant from a lot of people, very introvert because I was, I guess, bullying a major factor in my life. And eventually, once I got out of high school, I stopped talking to people for 3 years or so. I had one close friend that I would, hang out with all the time, but everybody else was just no going out to parties, no doing anything like that. It was just like, I don't need that stress in my life anymore. It was mostly on the factors of trust too. Um, it was a difficult time. And I realized, like I tell all people, you can't be introvert forever. You can't just not socialize. You can do it for a long time, but eventually someone is going to say something to you. You're going to have a conversation and you're going to feel like it hugged your soul. I always bring up the video game Sims. I don't know if you've ever played that.
Uh-huh.
With the emotions and all these things. Well, every other skill drains faster than the rest. And then there's the social skill that drains slower than everything. So much like how when I played the game, I created one guy, gave him, a good, like all these, make him extra muscular, like, oh shit. Yeah, that's me. That's me for sure. And then, I had everything set, a good job career, had this life set up, and I was building a party house. But I was taking care of everything but the social skill. I didn't feel the need to go talk to the neighbors that were knocking onto the porch, that were, wanted to have a party or wanted to hang out, giving calls. And I would just ignore all the invites to go out. And I realized my sim was getting very depressed. He went into a point, I never fully understood it until just last year. I decided to spark up the game again after I haven't played it since I was a kid. And I realized you can't isolate yourself completely, just because you need that interaction. You need interaction, whether it's with your family, whether it's with friends, whether it's with whatever. Like I've been in a slump for a while. I mean, I just went to the movies the other night, and it was the first time in probably almost a year that I've done anything with any of my friends. I've just been working and so busy with all these stuff that I haven't really had time. And I feel completely refreshed. Like all my problems went away. My brain feels clear.
Mm-hmm.
I
I can
definitely
relate to all of that.
I mean, yeah, it's a difficult scenario we put ourselves in, because I believe all of our emotional and mental health now is on the basis of empathy, which is what the world is lacking.
Mhm.
Really, because technology has become such an influence into our lives. So many people rather go home after a long day, not handle their stress, turn on Netflix and Snapchat their friends. That works for a little while. It's like false empathy. You can get that communication with somebody through a Snapchat, through a text, and it's not the same effect though if you were hanging out with them in person.
Mhm.
I mean, it's difficult, like, because my buddy was the one I went to go see the movie with. He's the one that I first did my first episode with, where we just talked about shitting the whole time. And like, he's like, dude, he goes, man, your podcast, you're on season 3. I'm like, yeah, man. And he just goes, remember our first episode? We're just sitting in my room and we were just shooting the shit literally about shit. And I was like, yeah. And it was like if he would have sent me a Snapchat, he wouldn't have been able to express, and I wouldn't have got that emotion, that energy that he was giving off that was so positive, that was able to, I guess, recreate or make me recover from the slump I was going through. To be a wellness coach, to be a confidence coach after not talking for 23 years, why did you, first of all, I mean, how did you not talk for 23 years? You just isolated yourself?
Well, I was bullied also through elementary, middle, and high school. So I just sat by myself mostly in a corner. I had a couple of friends, but nothing extensive. And so, not to say that I didn't talk, I could. I just wasn't very talkative. There's people who have known me my entire life who have never heard me say a single word. And
It seems like talking is more of a hassle sometimes too.
yeah, I definitely feel like it takes a lot more energy to have a conversation or talk at all than it does for me to like go run a mile, honestly.
I mean, you're talking to a person that talks all the time, loves talking, loves cracking jokes. I like to use humor in my everyday life. People are like, but you're really smart. I'm like, no, I'm not really, but I'm intellectual, but I choose to be funny, because why do you want to be serious half the time? And
Hmm.
it's difficult now, because just striking up a conversation with people, you see them get very offended about anything anymore. And I believe it all deals with the factors of, we're not really connecting as people anymore. We're looking for things to get mad at. We're looking at a way to get through rather than focusing on, we're people all trying to live on this earth together. Why don't we take the time to associate and connect?
Yeah, for sure. It's hard to change the culture, um, which is what a lot of it comes down to. Our generations are questioning the culture of, small talk and um, like not small talk itself, but like meaningless small talk and
Yeah,
the
default answers.
yeah,
When someone asks
yeah,
you how your day's going, and as they're
I'm
saying
fine.
that, they'll walk by you as they're saying, "Oh, how's your day going?" And you're like,
Oh
they're
yeah,
they're still
and
walking. I tell people I will not respond to you. I will
their eyes
literally.
glaze over, like you can obviously tell that they don't care at all.
I mean, I'm at fault myself for, I'll have the headphones in at the gym or something because that's my one stress relief. So it's like I don't want anybody talking to me when I'm there. But, eventually I just pull a headphone out. And I'm like, hey man, I've given advice, I've helped people, especially new people that are coming to the gym. I see them every day, it lasts like a week and a half. But I'm like, I'll give you the advice that someone never gave me so you don't hurt
Mhm.
yourself. You know what I mean? You don't fall into pitfalls. But we give a default autopilot response to people throughout our everyday lives. Nobody strikes up an original conversation anymore.
Yeah, I've been trying to put in some, I don't want to say fail safe, but some mechanisms that maybe get us past this a little bit. Like I told myself that I started this, let's see, about a year ago, probably. Whenever someone asks, I'm good, or everything's great, or I'm fine, or whatever that, normally people say, I'm going to be completely and raw honest because that's the only way that we're going to start connecting with people is if you open up that dialogue of vulnerability to be like, hey, I'm not having an okay time. And that's okay. I don't expect you to do anything for me other than, you asked me, so I'm going to tell you the truth.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of the times, like, I mean, this is popular, I think, with self checkout. A lot of people just don't even want to associate with people anymore.
Mhm.
It gets difficult. I mean, the one time, like I always use self checkout, but the one time I actually want to be like, hey, you know what? Maybe I can strike up a conversation. I get that interaction and maybe see how that person's doing. And I go up, put literally a head of cabbage or something. That's right. I'm a healthy guy. I eat cabbage. And I put it onto the conveyor belt, and she rings it up, and I'm like, so how's your day going? And she goes, don't get me started about my day. I'm like, fuck, it's 7 o'clock in the morning. How is your
Yeah.
day already started off in a shit spiral? Like, I don't understand what is going on. And then they start rambling and you're getting way too much. You can't process it all. And you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm not even handling things in my own life effectively. And you're telling me all your problems too.
Hmm.
And it comes from, like I said, we're not dealing with anything as right as we should be anymore. And we're seeing it's going to keep getting worse and worse and worse because it's so much easier to sweep something under the carpet rather than focus on it and narrow down the actual problem and fix it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I mean, you talk about, doing confidence and all these types of like training. Like, how do you impose confidence onto someone that might not have any?
Well, you don't really impose it. You teach them how to cultivate it. Um, I had crippling anxiety most of my life to the point to where sometimes I physically couldn't make words come out of my mouth. And I slowly over time through learning about myself and who I was and where these things stemmed from, because my anxiety stemmed from various things between, being bullied throughout my life, not having a super great home life at that. And I had some food allergies that I found out were causing some of my anxiety. So just various like, trauma based. I totaled two vehicles in one weekend and then didn't drive for 6 years.
How did you total
And
two vehicles in one weekend?
yeah, so um, the first one, I ran a stop sign and a van T-boned me in my side. It was terrible. Walked away with just some bruises and a busted knee, so that was great. But the next day, I guess I really shouldn't have been driving yet. I was still a little shaken up from the initial wreck. So someone slammed on their brakes in front of me to turn. No blinker, no anything. And I freaked out and swerved a little bit and hit the culvert and totaled. That was a minor wreck, but they totaled the truck because the bottom frame was bent.
Okay, hang on a second. How old are you when this is happening?
I was 17.
And at any point after the first wreck, your parents saw you reaching for the keys. They were like, maybe we shouldn't let her drive.
No, no, I was pretty well left to my own devices growing up, but
Shit.
it was my grandfather who gave me the truck. I told him my car, and my grandfather was like, "You still need a vehicle to get to and from work and to and from." I had my best friend lived around the corner on the same block, and then my boyfriend, who I'm now married to, lived at the end of the other road. So the deal was I could have the truck as long as I drove to and from work and home and to and from their two houses. And that was it. That was the only places I was allowed to go. And I was abiding by that.
Okay, so you're abiding by it, but hold on a second. When you crashed that second time, did you have to call your grandfather and explain to him what happened again?
Yes. And it was one
Did
of
he
the worst experiences of my life.
Did he literally say, we're getting you a fucking bike or something?
No.
Because like I would be like, look, you're not driving anymore. Like our insurance is going through the roof now.
No, he actually said, it's okay. These things happen. I wish you had called the police. And he took me like the next week to go find a truck of my own and help me finance it.
Oh my God. If I was, your guardian or parent, I'd be like, look, okay, you're going to have to start walking for a little while. Okay. I don't trust you. At least this is a bad week. Okay. Let's maybe try next month or something.
Yeah, I didn't trust myself either, though, and I think they could see that. Looking back, I was like, I don't want another one. Like, I'll just catch rides, and they're like, you can't live your life
Well,
just catching rides.
that's a bit of PTSD you probably got.
Oh yeah, for sure.
A lot of people think PTSD is linked to like war and all these things. I'm like, no, you can get PTSD over like anything.
Oh yeah.
I got PTSD when it comes to jet skis. I was hit by a jet ski. I got in like a severe accident. Somebody ran up me like a ramp. And I was a guide for a couple of years, but I continued guiding for a year or so afterwards. I would not let before people could just ride up to me on a jet ski and be like, what's up, man? No, this time you shut your jet ski off a good 50 yards away from me and you sat there and waited until I come up to you. And it's dangerous because when you're on a jet ski, people think like, oh, I rented this, so I have full control and I know how. I've been on it 5 minutes. I know how to, ride this thing perfect. So they'll drive at you and they don't realize the dangers. Like you got to take into account for when you hit the brake, because the newer jet skis do have brakes. A lot of them usually don't. It drops a grate behind the jet ski, so it's slowing you down. So you're also working off the water. So it's like if you are swimming in the water and you stop, you're still kind of moving forward. The momentum's still kind of carrying you a little bit. You don't come to like a dead stop,
Right.
And I try and explain that to people, but they'll just keep riding up. Next thing you know, people are bumping into each other because they stop like a good 2 feet away. Next thing you know, the water just all that momentum throws them right into the person. I'm like, man, like you don't realize the dangers, but I was getting PTSD from it. Like people would ride up to me and be like, whoa, and I'd get like mini heart attacks. I'm like, oh my God. And I'd start getting like freaking out like I was going to get hit again,
Right.
And that's what same thing. I had a buddy that got into a severe car accident, got his foot ripped off, had to get major surgery and everything. And he lost the passenger that was in the car with him. And he talks about it. Like, I was like, how hard was it for you to get behind the steering wheel and be able to function again? And like, even on the podcast, he was talking, he was like, man, he goes, I had PTSD for the longest time. It's just trying to get in the car was the most difficult thing I've ever experienced. Just sitting in that seat in the driveway without even the car being on was the hardest thing he's had to do in his life so far. And
Yeah.
like, man, like to think all this stuff, like, I really don't think people understand how sensitive and fragile that the human mind really is
Yeah.
emotionally and more on the lines of mentally as well. I mean, it's a powerful device, don't get me wrong. I mean, the problems we can solve, the things we can fix, but when it comes to depression, emotional issues, it boggles my mind that some people will look at someone that suffers from severe emotional and mental stress and say, "What's wrong with you?" I've seen kids come up to parents, to people that don't suffer from depression, saying, "I have severe anxiety and all these things," and the parents just look at them and go, "What's
Get
wrong with
over
you?
it.
What's wrong with you? Like, get over it. It's not. You're not really. You're not affected." Because they think they can never be affected by it, and you don't understand. It's not something you're born with. It's not something you only can develop it at a young age. You can develop it at any point in your life.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Now, what types of things do you try and, I guess, say to people that would get them, I guess, a confidence booster, or try and outline themselves for confidence? I know some people that do like social media influencing, but they do it in the more positive way, showing the benefits of it. Like, follow people that are normal, average day people, not celebrities. So you don't feel like you don't have anything. Feel like, everyone's kind of at the same general level as you, things that are obtainable to you.
Yeah. Well, so I don't have like a general set of toolbox that I give everybody. Everything's tailored to the individual, because first we have to go through and figure out what's causing um, you to hold yourself back and suffer from the anxiety, because some anxiety is medical. Like, for example, I have a soy allergy that causes some of my anxiety. And there's no rhyme or reason to it. Like, my body just starts kind of buzzing. And but there's trauma based anxiety, and then there's emotional abuse based anxiety. So first we have to figure out what's causing your particular brand, so we can figure out how to get past it. And the emotional base and the overthinking base, the trauma base, those are easier to get past than the medical base, because the medical base, it's hard to figure out what's causing that. I didn't know a soy allergy was causing mine until um, I started breaking out with eczema from head to toe, and my doctor put me on an elimination diet. We found out I was allergic to soy. I cut it out of my diet, and whoa, most of my anxiety disappeared overnight. So, um, once we figure out what's causing yours, we can start reworking the mindset that has you where you are and get you to where you want to be.
You strike me as someone who's very interested in like meditation.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, definitely.
I tried it a couple of times. I don't like it. Makes me feel awkward when I do like downward facing dog or something like that. But I get why people can enjoy it. It is a sense of relaxation. I know so many people that use breath techniques and these types of forms of like yoga or meditation to release stress. I
Mhm.
think a lot of people don't realize how pent up and actually full of stress they really are until they truly take the time to diagnose it, such as like sitting down and going like, like, because then you feel like when you're doing that exhale, you start hearing like because you start feeling like, the breaths seem like they're getting cut off, and you realize you have an overwhelming amount of stress in you, where that deep sigh felt like, I don't even know, like a gift from God.
Mhm.
What types of things, like, are you interested in? What types of forms of meditation are we talking about? Are we talking about like, a lot of what we see on social media where it's like the green shakes? Or are you more interested into the actual real meditation, the ones where you sit down, isolate yourself, or, be able to really focus on your inner self? Like, kind of, I guess, I don't want to say chakra, but more like the energy that you can kind of give off.
Okay, so there's a lot of different types of meditation. There's a lot of misconceptions about meditation as well. Um, I had side note, I had someone about a year ago tell me that they didn't believe kids should be meditating because it allows them to commune with spirits.
Hmm.
And yeah, so meditation really is all it is quieting your mind. It doesn't matter what you're doing while your mind is quieting, as long as you're creating that space, you are meditating. And there are different branches of it, like you said, with the breathing techniques and the relaxation techniques. But if you're cleaning your house and just zoned in to what you're doing and you're not listening to music or listening to a podcast, then that is considered meditation. Or if you're going for a walk, excuse me, and you're not listening to things, you're not occupying your mind, that is considered meditation.
I definitely saw recently there was an article where a school, instead of doing detention or doing a form of, I guess, punishment for crazy behavior, such as like alternative education, where you just isolate the kid with a bunch of other kids that can't really function in a class-hold setting, much like myself when I was a kid. They actually started doing meditation classes, and they found that the kids were being a lot more polite, being a lot more calmed down, being able to focus more. And even with bullying, a lot of the kids that would be considered bullied or emotionally hurt were able to focus and have a sense more of empathy and become friends with some of the kids that they were bullying. And they've been doing this with kids at the ages of 6 and 7. So to see that bullying is affecting that, and obviously that if they're starting to change it, maybe we can start creating a process here where if we start maybe doing more forms of meditation, like a class in school, we'll be start seeing benefits in the world today. If we just started, starting that
Oh,
now,
yeah.
maybe 10 years from now, we're going to see more people that are going to have a minute to sit down. I mean, I think when a lot of people think of meditation, they think of like yogi chants and stuff, or having a bonsai tree on your work desk, but it's a form of relaxation. I mean, I can get relaxation from something different than you would get relaxation from. You have different interests, and you've walked your own kind of path in this way that has gotten you to, your comfort zone. For me, I live in a beach town. So when I go out into nature, when I, walk out my front door and I smell the nice whiff of sea salt in the air, it fills my lungs. And especially how it's kind of cold outside now, it's a frost, like it's a frost kind of air chill that goes into your lungs, and you feel it like grab a hold of it like with two hands, like someone's squeezing your lungs. And it's so awakening, and it makes you really realize the moment that you're kind of standing in.
Mm-hmm.
I, I
Yeah.
I think these are perfect forms of, relaxation techniques or a form of meditation. I mean, I see so many people out in the morning, even in the freezing cold to this extremely hot, they're out there just doing yoga on the beach. And I'm like, it's about getting that proper mindset in too. And you don't need a place to do it. You can do it in your house. You
Yeah.
don't need an extraordinary place, but it's about taking and crafting out the time to do so, and also isolating everything, your phone, your thoughts, and just focusing on the like just breathing. Now, when it comes to mental health, do you have any fixes that you've seen or that you've kind of come across that have worked for you, that maybe you kind of try and give advice to others on? Because it feels like when it comes to mental health, everyone feels like the tunnel's never going to end.
Yeah. So I've had to relearn a bunch of things and a bunch of different ways of doing things with working with clients, because I am lucky enough to have like a soldier's type mentality where it's like it doesn't matter what you're going through, just do it. So I've always been able to do that for myself, but I know it's not that easy for other people. Um, so like you said, just surrounding yourself with positivity helps a lot. Cutting out the things in your life that don't feel good. And I always stress that there's a difference between resistance and discomfort. Resistance is something that's like it's not for you. Every every cell in your body is just like, oh, I don't want to do this. No. Um, for example, me with sports, I've tried to like sports. I have so much resistance. I'm just like, I can't do it.
Oh, what types of
But
sports though? Are we talking about soccer?
oh, any of them.
I like croquet. I have no idea why, but I always feel really elegant when I do croquet, even though I'm really just hitting something with a hammer.
Oh yeah, yeah, the whole like culture and vibe behind it for sure.
That's a default topic too. Everybody always brings up sports in a conversation.
Yeah,
And like
yeah,
they're talking
definitely.
about like football or basketball, and I just come in there like, "Hey, golfing's awesome, right?" And everyone's like, "What?" And I'm like, "I don't know what we're talking about."
Yeah, I live in the South, so if you're not into sports, then you're the odd man out. You're the weirdo. We don't know how to talk to you if you're not into sports.
I never like doing sports talk on the concept of like when you first meet somebody and you bring up a sports, like, oh, you see somebody with like a Ravens hat on, or you see someone with like a jersey on for their favorite team, and you go, oh, you like that team, and then you start shooting, to get into a really good conversation about the team, shooting the shit, all this type of stuff. Then every time you see that person, that's the only topic that ever gets brought up.
Yeah, because that's the safe topic. That's the one you know how to discuss with that person.
And then your relationship with that person is stuck with that. You never know if you're
It's
going to be able to
shallow.
actually full on connect with the person. You're like, yeah, I know Timmy's a good guy, Ravens fan, like him a lot. Next thing you know, you go up to him and it's like off season or whatever when the football's not anymore. So what do you think their hopes are for next year? And it's like, that's what the
Yep.
conversation is. But you're like, hey man, you want to catch a drink? Then you guys go out and sit at the bar like, so what are you interested in? Not a whole lot, man. And then there's no
Yeah.
conversation at all. And you're just like, wow, I really actually am not as friends like I think I am with this person.
Yeah, nobody knows how to go in depth with a conversation or learn about a person anymore, like at all. I have another reason that I've never been a social butterfly is because I can't really do small talk. Like, if you want to talk about your hopes and your dreams and your ambitions and your traumas and your past experiences, then we can have a conversation for 3 days straight. But if you want to talk about surface level things like media and
Do you want to talk about origami?
I don't really know a whole lot about it.
I barely know anything about origami. I think I made a paper airplane once, and I think it hurt somebody or did something, poked them in the eye.
Oh gosh.
See. Everyone always asks me like, how do you just have conversations with people without like researching or bringing up a topic? Because whenever I bring up, doing the podcast, I invite somebody. They're always like, "What's the topic?" I'm pretty sure you probably did the same thing.
I did not actually.
Oh,
I
you
was
did.
like, it's cool. Nope. Well, I thought about it and I was like, yeah, we'll figure it out.
I get so many people that are like, it's what's the topic? So I can study or do something or know what you want to talk about. And I'm like, that's not it. Like my mom told me when I was a kid, don't talk to strangers and don't get in their van unless they have peanut butter cups. But it turned into a new form of technology where I can talk to strangers and not get hurt. So hey,
Yeah.
it's perfect. I'm basically not obeying authority and I'm doing what I like to do. So it's like it's a win-win.
I'm all for rebellion.
I'm telling you, it's even when I go out into my everyday life, I always strike up that conversation at the store. I'll let someone go in front of me, mostly because like, it's weird. I can tell on days like if I work out in the morning and then if I work out at night. If I work out at night, I don't get that sense of relief until after. I don't get that sense of not stressed until after the gym. So I'm like already like going home. So it's not really taking effect into my life. But like I've been starting to work out in the morning again. And for the rest of the day, I'm just walking around like chill as a cucumber. Like I'm like just yeah, get in front of me, Oh, you cut me off in traffic. That's okay, man. I'm not in that much of a hurry. Just like I'm on someone just handed me like 10 joints and was like, smoke these. Like I'm just like because I have no stress. That's
Yeah.
my stress relief. I can tell anybody. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be the gym. It doesn't have to be anything of this sort. If you like ping pong, if you like whatever you like, just sit and play it for a little bit. Get yourself leveled throughout the day. The problem is when you go out into the world after you wake up, you probably have the mindset like, gotta go to work, gotta do this, I hate my job, whatever it is. You're already creating a negative influence that's going to shadow you through the whole entire day where you're not going to
Yep.
treat anybody with respect.
Yep. How you start your day off is the most important thing that you can do. Sets the pace for the rest of the day.
A bowl of Raisin Bran is the best way. 2 scoops of sunshine. I mean, see, because I get really interested in a lot of things when it comes to like, I guess, fitness a little bit, and yoga and meditation. I never truly understood until a couple of years ago. I decided to, take it up and try it. And it's definitely a peaceful, relaxing thing. I definitely tell people like, don't do it if you don't want to do it. If it's not, it's obviously not your forte, but do something you enjoy. I
Hmm.
mean, if you like talking to people, talk to people. If you like, this would become a stress relief for me, having a conversation with you. Like, I'm already set for the day. I love that we did it in the morning. And it's, I tell people, just do one thing that you love for a minute or so. Like, if even plan it out. Because the bad part is when you plan it out, though, and it's like at the end of the day, like when I get home from work, I'm going to do this. After all the stress throughout the day hits you, when you get home, you don't want to do that plan anymore.
Yeah. You
And
just want to melt into the couch and not move for a little bit.
yeah, you want to put the sweatpants on and relax. And I'm like I said, I'm a big proprietor for mental health because I know it's affecting kids worse and worse. And I mean, I want to get your thoughts on this. Do you think this is because of the world that we live in with social media now?
There are a lot of different factors. Um, Social media, the culture, the toxins in our everyday lives that we're dealing with. The way my doctor explained it to me is you have like a toxins bucket per se, and your body is really good at cleansing out those toxins. But when they build up and your bucket starts getting too full and it can't keep up with them, it starts overflowing. That can cause it.
So you feel like kind of like throughout the day, you're kind of like a wishing fountain, I guess you would say. People are always constantly throwing their problems into your fountain.
Well, not really, because I'm well practiced in not
Well,
letting
not for
other
you, but
people.
for the average person. That's
Oh
constantly
yeah,
the
yeah.
case.
Yeah, probably. That would have a lot to do with it. We are so affected by the people around us. And it's really easy to be like, well, don't let them affect you or don't take what they say personally, but we're emotional beings and we take everything personal.
It's because we're meant to develop connections with people. We're not meant to be
Yeah,
isolated from everyone, even though it is
definitely.
good sometimes. I mean, if you stay with your family for a week in the house and nobody's leaving, nobody's going anywhere, you're just around each other 24/7, eventually someone's reaching for a butter knife. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Someone's going to snap. But it's we do need to be alone when we have to deal with like maybe an hour or so or sleep or so. You need to be alone for that. You can't be around people 24/7, but you can't completely isolate yourself either. um we give off a form of energy, people do. I mean, I think we all know the some people that like you talk to, and it feels like after the conversation is over, you feel energized. You feel like, holy crap, like that was an amazing conversation. You got really interested in it and you were just ready to go. You were all ramped up like someone recharged your batteries. Then we all know the people that have a wet towel personality. Man, that one is draining as hell. You go and sit there and
Yeah.
talk to them like, hey, what do you want to do? I don't know. Like, what do you mean? You want to go bowling? You want to go to the movies? I don't know. It's like, oh my God, like, what are you doing to me? I can feel the life getting sucked out of me. People call them emotional vampires. It's not
Hmm.
their fault.
No.
It's mostly because the interests aren't the same. It's hard because, like I said, I know I keep saying it over and over again. When it comes to mental health, there's just way too much we don't understand. And even though it seems like we're getting a pretty good grasp on it now, there's so much left to uncover. I mean, you brought up before nutrition base. I mean, there's multiple factors that lead into
Oh yeah.
creating a better person, creating a healthier person. I think a lot of people, when they look at what it means to be healthy, they look at your fitness routines, all these types of things, when really it can be based down to your nutrition too. If you eat like shit, you're going to feel like shit.
Yeah, and there's even going into that, like people don't know, the internet is still fairly new and the younger generations, we grew up with the internet and so we have access to all of these things and we don't know how to have our questions not answered, you know. But before the internet, nobody knew how to get their questions answered. You had to either go search through the library for hours on end to answer a question, or hope that somebody around you knew the answer. And so you can still see a lot of that carrying over, that we're in this golden age of knowledge, but at the same time, there's so many people who don't access it because that's just not what you did for like the all through humanity. So my point is that when I was growing up, the only sense of health was a salad. That was how they defined health,
That's
or your
that's
weight.
how you lose weight. You gotta eat a
Yep,
salad. It's like,
you got
oh,
to eat a salad.
there's a little bit more to that one.
Yeah, see, I was a chubby kid, and there was about a year where I was only allowed to eat salad. Like that was it. And that's how they measured health. And there's so many factors in health. It's your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health, and then every one of those goes really deep. There's 1,001 different things that you could be doing for your health,
Yeah, this
where
this person
society.
this personal trainer I know, his name's Chuck Gokenauer. He was on my first season of my podcast, and we were talking. I was like, he brought up a really good point because he's like, Rob, you've been coming in here every day, haven't missed a day, and this was about 4 years in. I'm at about 7 years going every day now. So about 3 years ago, he's like, your body is, you can train your body as much as you want, but if you're not focusing also on the mental aspect, you're gonna really hurt yourself. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, read a fucking book, man. Do
Yeah.
something. Do something besides just work out your physical thing, because your mind is a muscle as well. Just do something, focus on things you want to do. Look up information, articles you're interested in, and read them. And I'm at the gym doing push ups with a book in front of me, literally just like going up and down, reading pages and stuff. Because I'll spend 2 to 3 hours at the gym. And he was like, you're going to notice a change. He goes, you're feeling like you're in a slump because you are in a slump, because you're not doing anything new anymore. You're just training your body every single day. You're not messing with your mind.
Hmm.
So through that, I decided to look up other things. I decided to get interested in different topics and look up things, just in go take a stroll on the internet, but don't look at all the dumb articles that some person writes up about like WebMD, where you have this disease if your foot hurts or something. Don't go into that stuff. Look at some true interesting stuff throughout history. I found I had a fascination with Greek mythology, so I started diving down into that really hard. And I started wanting to locate places I want to explore, learn more about folklore, things I never would have thought in a million years I would be interested in.
Yeah. I've always said that I could live to be 200, learn how to not eat or sleep, and I still wouldn't have enough time to look into, research, and learn all of the things that I would like in this world. There's so many possibilities. I can't understand how people are like, I don't know what I'm interested in. Like, how
I
do you not know what you're interested
There's
in?
so many things too. It's like you could be interested in, like, I know my buddy. Let me tell you, he loves building IKEA furniture. I swear to God, and I don't understand it because that is the most tasking thing in my mind. But he gets a sense of relaxation from it. Like there's something, no matter how idiotic
Adult Legos.
exactly. It doesn't matter how it might sound to someone else, if it's whatever. It's about what interests you and what gets you that, passerby. That's why video games are very popular nowadays, because more of an audience can get attracted to it. It's able to boggle your mind's attention for a few hours at a time. I mean, you play a couple games, or something. Next thing you know, it's like the next day, like, whoa, what happened? Where'd the time go? It's meant
Oh,
to
yeah.
do that. It's a hobby for a reason. I actually want to get into recently. I was like, well, video games aren't fun for me anymore. I do a lot of podcasting. I don't want to keep, doing like 20 a day or something. So I'm like, maybe I should, try and find something else besides the gym as well. And I was like, let's build models. I mean, that as a kid was the most difficult thing I've ever tried to do. But I'm like, I can see where people were interested in it though, because it's a sense of relief. Like you're not, you're not on the clock by anything. You're just building something at your own pace and watching this creation, take basically, I guess, manifest in front of you.
Hmm.
And I definitely think that to create a more suitable or more, I guess, environmentally and mentally friendly world, we have to start being a little bit more positive and find something that interests us. I always looked at all the elderly people that sat at the library reading books all day, like, you're wasting your lives. And they're just like, you got to read a book, son. I'm like, oh, no, why would I read a book? I'm not old. I'm young. And I actually found that, like, I ended up renewing my library card and was like, there's so much information in here and so many different topics to get interested in.
Yeah. Yeah. I lose a lot of people in conversation in real life because they ask me what I do for fun. I'm like, oh, I read a lot. Like, oh, what kind of things do you read? And I'm like, mostly textbooks.
I read my
They're not
dictionary.
really. Yeah.
That's actually, I do read the dictionary. I used to do it when I was a kid as a punishment, and now, like, I bought Webster's dictionaries just to have in my house because I'll randomly, like, just like find a good word and I'll just walk around saying it, like learning it. I mean, I didn't know what boondoggle was, and people are like, what do you mean boondoggle? I'm like, you're just boondoggling around right now. And they're like, what does that mean? It's like, you're supposed to be doing something, but you're just messing around, like playing on your phone or something.
Boondoggling.
So I was
Yeah.
like, that's a funny word. And I remember my dad did it as a punishment. He was like, you're failing English class. How do you fail English class? I'm like, I don't know, just not learning English, I guess. And he's like, all right, well, here's a dictionary. I want you to write 1 page a day, write the full everything, the description, the word, everything on a separate piece of paper. By a couple years later, I was done with the dictionary. I don't memorize every single word, obviously, but I know a
Right.
good amount to keep an intelligible conversation too. A lot of it did soak in, and it's interesting because, I mean, that's something a lot of people don't realize too. Like, even though how boring that might sound to read a fucking dictionary, like, what do you want to do? You want to go to the movies? No, I want to read the dictionary. Like, no, I mean, and any reasonable person is not going to do that. But it is something, like I said, you can find a form of relaxation in anything. And I think a lot of people need to take the time to figure out what their relaxation is, whether it's spending time with family, the common ones that everyone always talks about, hanging out with friends, going out to a bar. Well, a bar's not for everybody. I'm 21 years
Yeah.
old and I have never bought a legal drink of alcohol. So, I don't go out and drink. So my friends just don't invite me to parties because they know I'm going to say no. I'm there if they need a ride, but it's just
Hmm.
not my forte. I can't get interested in that. But with podcasting, they'll hit me up and be like, hey man, how you doing? I'm like, do you guys want to do a podcast? You guys want to hang out or something, do a bonfire or something? Next thing you know, we're all hanging out and we're just relaxing and just talking again. It doesn't need to be as popular or as big of a common thing, I guess you would say, as hanging out with your friends or hanging out with your family, but it can be as simple as just finding something that keeps your mind occupied and creates a bit of relaxation in a life that is filled with stress.
Yeah. Whatever works for you is perfect. It doesn't have to be what everybody else is into by any means. I have a theory that a lot of people are into the mainstream thing just because they don't know what else to be into. So they're
I'm
like, they convince
Yeah.
themselves that they like sports, or they convince, like, I see it all the time with my grandparents and my mother-in-law. They're not into sports, but they try to be. And when people are around that they know are into sports, they'll bring up the games, and it's all hollow talk, but they think that they're into it.
That's why I don't like when we have like family gatherings and stuff every like once every year or something. And it's like Thanksgiving, everybody's sitting down watching football. I'm like, let's take the time to connect again. Everybody's just talking about football. I want to know, like, how's grandma doing? You didn't know grandma died last year. What? I've been sending her text messages and calling her. I've been wondering why it goes straight to voicemail. Like,
Yeah.
you start finding out things like there's a point where I know the phone is probably the most popular sense of at least attraction and guess like keeping your mind off whatever now, but there are so many other things we could be doing that are more beneficial into our own lives. Maybe finding a deep down interest such as like building a birdhouse, I don't know, reading a book, just increasing our own intelligence. It seems like the phone has that reasonable source to look up information on it, but the things we choose to do is just sit and scroll mindlessly on Instagram or Facebook to the point where it's like, do you remember what you just did? And like, no, I was just sitting there refreshing Instagram over and over and over again, waiting for something new to pop up.
Yeah, it's a problem.
And I mean, I hopefully it gets fixed. I definitely think a lot of people need to take the time to isolate themselves from their phone. I mean, I try not to bring it into the store with me. I try not to go out into the world with it a whole lot, mostly because it's so big, it doesn't fit in my pocket anymore.
Mhm.
So, just carrying it around in my hand, I'm like, I might as well get a purse or a fanny pack. But I definitely think that if more people just took the time to be more in the moment and find better forms of relaxation, that we could probably create a better world.
Oh yeah, for sure. The pieces are out there. You just it takes people, and some take the initiative to spread these things that they should be doing, that everyone should be doing, to create a better society for everyone and whatnot. But it takes an individual's responsibility for themselves to look into it, to do the work to learn it, to work through their own issues, and be a positive influence. I really believe in the power of the ripple effect.
Yeah, like one thing leads to another thing, leads to another thing, and leads to another thing.
Well, like when you live life to the best of your abilities, you inspire other people around you to do the same, and then they inspire people around them to do the same, and so on and so forth.
I can definitely get down with that. I know a lot of people that talk about us all being kind of connected, like a web.
Mhm.
I definitely think like we definitely all affect each other's lives, no matter like how personal they are to you. Just in a normal everyday conversation can affect your life in a completely different way. Um, I definitely think that one person can change their actions, but if we only have that one person, and, it's just one person doing that, I think that's enough that if everyone started doing it, that one person started taking an initiative, if everyone's like, I'm just going to work on me, not try and change anybody else. Next thing you know, you're going to see an overall increase in empathy in the world because everybody's going to be acting kind of the same when they start looking at the problems in their own life, which is I think
Yes.
I think where a lot of aggression comes from is because we don't focus on the problems and we're in our own life, so we tend to just take it out on others.
Hmm.
And
Definitely.
it's like I said, it's a rocky slope. So much about mental health there is left to be understood, and there's so much that we think we got a grasp on it, and we really don't. Like I tell people, we need to stop focusing on space travel. We need to stop focusing on whatever going out into another dimension or the next iPhone 20 or Amazon
Doing too
Alexa.
much.
Yeah, and focus on the things that are actual priorities that we're not handling as society, which is us as people. We need to learn to be
Yes.
people again.
When you heal the individual, you heal the society as a whole.
Yeah, you can't build a house on a shitty foundation.
No, and we have a terrible foundation.
That's for sure. It's built like a Jenga tower, just waiting for someone to pull that block to fall.
Yeah, everybody's hanging on by a thread. And our culture in America is, suppress it. We don't talk about our emotions. Man up. You gotta uh be strong, pull yourself together, push your emotions away. We don't want to talk about that. We just do the thing that you're supposed to do.
I'm not afraid to cry. My goldfish died. I bawled my eyes out. I had
Yeah,
him
I'm not
for
afraid of emotions either.
I had my
My
goldfish for
family.
2 months. His name was Venom. I named him after the supervillain.
Yeah.
And he died, and I knew he died. And I went, I guess, to school. This was this was probably when I was like 16. Not 16. I'm not giving myself that extra. I'd say 14, maybe turning 15. My mom fucking changed him out. She came
Like you
up,
would notice.
she's like, oh, he went to sleep. He's back. I'm like, I know he was dead when I left the house. I mourned him in
That's nice though. My mom would have been like, "It died. Suck it up. It was just a fish."
I'm like, what? I like caught her in it. I was like, I know it died. Like I'm not like completely like unaware of it. Like you can't. I don't know. It was weird because I went to school and I was like, I got emotionally like I was like, all right, I got this. It sucks. Can't believe I lost my fish. Got through the day. I get home and then she's back and I'm like, why is he a little bit different? Like he just like had a different tail. And I was like, okay, all right, I see what you're trying to do and I appreciate it, but no, flush this one down the toilet too. To the sewer it goes. Well, Savannah, I really appreciate you doing the podcast. It was awesome talking to you. And I really want to give
Thank
you
you for
your,
having me.
I want to give you here a minute at the end to kind of promote your content a little bit too, so people can find your awesome work.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So you can find me at earthandwater.co. Co. I talk about confidence, obviously, a lot of mental health things, anxiety, but I also do a lot of mind, body, spirit content. So it's very personal development oriented. Everybody can get benefits from it because everybody needs personal development. And a lot of it is directed towards moms. Like I'll write something um, like with a mom in mind because I do the doula work and I run everything out of the same website. But really, it applies to most everything applies to everybody. But yeah, and then you can find me at earth and underscore water on Twitter and Instagram, which is where I'm most active. And I have a lot of free content, a chakra course, a minimalist course. I'm working on a moon manifestation course right now, and all of that's free. And I'm also on YouTube, Facebook, all of the
Do you try and be a
main things.
minimalist?
Minimalist, I am. That's a whole other. I've done podcasts on just that topic.
I like to
But
always bring up this concept with hobos. I think they're the expert minimalists.
for sure.
Yeah, because they don't have a lot, but what they do have is they don't really care about. Monks too,
Yeah,
those guys. I like
they're the ones that started it. That's where it all started, really. I don't know if that's officially where it started, but because it's deeper than just minimizing what you have. It's a whole mindset thing.
of not being
And
connected to possessional items. My cousin did that for
right,
a very long time. I think he still does. He just doesn't buy anything. He has
right.
like, I think a couple pairs of underwear and like a couple pairs of clothes, and he just goes around like, I'm good. I don't need anything to be tying me down. I can get up and leave whenever I want. I'm like, that's a crazy way to live, but I like your edge, kid.
Well, consumerism is based off of people trying to fulfill needs. And, buying the new shirt or the new clothes may make you feel really good for a set amount of time, but you're not dealing with the underlying issues that have you feeling unwhole to begin
Definitely. I mean, I look at monks and homeless people and I chalk them in the same category when it comes to minimalists. But like, I've met fake monks. I've met all these people. Like, I live in a tourist attraction town. So you get to see carny type people here, people that are like interested in something or have a weird kind of thing about them. That's kind of their stick or their kind of thing that gets them attention. And there's this dude who was walking up who was dressed like a monk and he was giving out wristbands. He was just walking up to people and putting it on their arm. And I saw him doing it at a distance. He was walking up to me and he comes up to me like, opens up the wristband for me to stick my arm through. And I do. And then he goes, may peace be with you, and says this kind of religious thing. And then he sticks out his money, his hand for a donation. I'm like, dude, I don't have any cash on me. I just got out of the beach. I'm in board shorts right now. I have no wallet, nothing. And he takes the wristband off me. And I'm like,
Wow.
wow. Like, damn, like that religious fortune cookie thing you gave me didn't mean crap without the wristband. And he just keeps on walking, asking people for donations. I'm like, that really sucks.
Mhm.
I mean, you got to do what you got to do. It's a hard life out there for a pimp, I guess. Well, thank you so much, Savannah, for being on the podcast. And stay tuned for another episode of Out of the Blank.